Tonight on the program, an interview with an economist on the impact of mergers and acquisitions on consumers. An exclusive interview with the Vice President of the International Finance Corporation on key factors for sustainable post-COVID economic recovery. And the first episode of our documentary series, Reviving Thailand, How to Survive Post-COVID.
Sawadika, I'm Nabunag and welcome to This Week with Thai PBS World. In the past month, we've seen many large companies announce mergers and acquisitions, some of which were quite unexpected. Tonight, we'll be taking a look at the companies which made such decisions as well as why. The biggest appears to be an equal partnership between CP's True and Telenor's DTAC in a joint venture thought to be worth up to $200 million with a focus on investment in tech startups. The news of the potential merger between the two telecom giants has sparked debate and concern, especially regarding fair competition, as the deal would leave only two major mobile operators in the Thai market instead of three. A new telecom and tech entity will be created under the partnership, which is yet to be named and which would be the new market leader in Thailand, overtaking AIS, which currently controls a 44% market share. The CP Group and Norway's Telenor aren't the only conglomerates looking into startups. Early last month, Siam Commercial Bank announced its acquisition of a 51% stake in BidCup online company from BidCup Capital Group Holdings for almost 18 billion baht. The move followed SCB Group's major rebranding and restructuring, including the establishment of SCBX as a parent company to accelerate its expansion in the financial business. Another big partnership announced recently is between Thailand's leading retail conglomerate, Central Retail Corporation, and Grab Thailand. Central invested 4.5 billion baht to purchase over 133 million shares, or a 67% stake in Porto Worldwide Limited, a shareholder in Grab Taxi Holdings Thailand, which will enable the retail giant to acquire a significant non-controlling stake in Grab's Thailand unit. So according to Central, the partnership comes as the group realizes the potential of the ride-hailing entity, which has prospered rapidly over the past several years to become the leader in the Southeast Asian region. On this topic, I had a chance to talk to Professor Dr. Pawida on the implications these mergers have on the Thai economy.
I think consumers should, of course, be concerned because I think their choices are affected by the number of players in any industry. Not just consumers, but also if we are talking at retail sector in the hypermarket, we can see strong control by certain companies that have control in many sectors. And that would affect not just the consumers, but also the suppliers who would have to supply into retail industries.
We've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions recently. What does it say about the current economic situation in Thailand?
I think if you are looking at some of the major deals of acquisition that took place lately, you can say that it leads into the direction of the growth of the digital economy in Thailand. It also shows the strategy for business that Thai business are becoming more aggressive and using the acquisition strategy to grow rather than an organic growth, which might take longer. In an industry that is as fast-moving and require a lot of innovation, such as digital economy, perhaps the strategy of acquisition would be something that we will see more often in the future.
With the recent mergers and acquisitions that we've seen, many people are concerned about the monopoly issue where one company is dominating various industries all at once.
I think we have to understand that the Thai economy and the Thai business scene has long been dominated by conglomerates, which has their business in a lot of areas. But I think if we look at it from the broader perspective, it also reflects the strong concentration of wealth that we are seeing in the Thai economy, that only a few groups of companies are able to expand into many areas. And that might be a concerning issue for the Thai public and the Thai economy, that we are seeing even more area being concentrated. And this time we are seeing the digital economy also being more concentrated in only a few groups.
Why is it the monopoly issue so difficult to deal with? Is it because of the economic structure that allows this to happen, or is it the authorities that are not doing enough to fix this problem?
I think it's both sides, because if you think of the economic explanation of why business get bigger and how they can get bigger, you can see that there are scales and scope effects. So business can create more synergies when they get into the industries that allows them to grow further. For example, in the case of Central and Grab, you can see that both need each other to grow for the omni-channel retailing. But I think you can also see that the regulatory aspect have to catch up with a lot of this new and development in the digital economy. So I think the regulatory bodies in the Thai structure needs to also make sure that they create a level playing field that benefits newcomers as well as existing players.
We're still on the issue with business and economics, with the world's economy still struggling to recover from the pandemic. Recently, Hatay Teshikitiranan had a chance to talk to the Vice President of the IFC for Asia and Pacific on what are the key factors to the economic recovery around the world as well as for Thailand.
Three key sectors apart from the mass vaccination drive play an important role in sustainable global economic recovery, says Alfonso Garcia Mora, Vice President for Asia and Pacific at the International Finance Corporation, or the IFC, a sister organization of the World Bank, as he visited the Bangkok office from their headquarters in Washington, D.C.
One is climate finance, the climate change, which is a critical agenda, not only for Thailand. And what we do is we help in that agenda by investing in renewable energies, for instance, or by investing in any other industry that is related with what we call the circular economy. So basically with the relation between recycling and marine plastics, etc. Another one is the digitalization, for instance. We believe that in the context of the recovery from COVID, the investment on digital is critical, not only on digital finance, on fintechs, etc., but also in all the different sectors that will gain significant efficiencies and outreach by using digital means, for instance, e-health, or e-education, or trade. A third piece of the recovery that we believe is also critical is all related with the health industry, that we need more health support, that we need more healthcare, that we need to be better prepared for situations like this one, and actually the demand for a stronger health system has increased worldwide. And this could be particularly relevant in a country like Thailand, because as we know, is one of the countries that will be more affected by the demographics. 11% of the population today in Thailand is older than 65 years old, but this percentage will be 23% in 2035. So the evolution, or the elderly evolution of the population in Thailand is very significant, and this will require a lot of support from the health system.
Acting like a bridge between governments and the private sector, having provided consultancies to the former and made a lot of investments in and issued loans to the latter, IFC's work in Thailand is focused on expanding job opportunities and targeting micro, small and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, in the light of continued expansions of corporates in Thailand.
So basically what we do is we try to help governments, countries, to develop the private sector in those areas where it can have a bigger impact in terms of growth and in terms of inclusion and in terms of resilience. One of our main objectives is to create markets that are competitive. So competition, we believe, is critical in order for a market to be efficient or that the benefits are correctly allocated. So basically that the consumers, the final consumer, benefits from whatever decision is taken and can have access to products with a lowest price as possible. And that's why we work to promote more SMEs in every single sector, to make sure that there is enough supply, that there is enough offer, and that therefore the prices really reflect what the market competition creates. No?
Emphasizing how the private sector is the one that needs to lead the country into recovery, Mr. Mora pointed to how Thai businesses can capitalize on electronic vehicle production, rethink their tourism strategies, and embrace digitalization going forward.
The recovery from COVID-19 needs to come from the private sector. We need to do the necessary reforms, the structural reforms that are pending in the economies, to allow the private sector to come in and to actually play a much more significant role in terms of job creation, in terms of employment, in terms of value added. And both, because of the supply and the demand, we believe that Thailand will be a key country in the ASEAN for electronic vehicles. This can really transform that industry. And this can really be one of the key flagships for the country going forward. No? Tourism is the backbone of the country, no? But I think that this country has the capacity to really rethink how to transform the tourism sector after COVID-19. No? I think that creating the conditions to see a significant increase on digital businesses, again, apply that to very different services and products, will probably be also a key thing that this country can do and many others will not be able to do. No?
Hatay Teshikitiran reporting for Thai PBS World.
Very interesting insight right here. And now let's have a look at the other stories in our weekly roundup.
Thailand has detected its first 4 Omicron cases over the past week. The first one announced was an American man arriving from Spain via Dubai. 2 other cases are 2 Thai female translators who returned from Nigeria. The 4th case is a Thai UN official returning from the Congo. The first 3 infections have been confirmed to be of the Omicron variant, while the 4th is pending another test. The Prime Minister has urged the public not to panic and ensure there will be no resumption of partial lockdown measures in the future. The Supreme Court has upheld the appeals court prison term of 3 years and 2 months without suspension handed down to Thai construction tycoon Premchai Ganasut for poaching in Thung Yai Naresuan Wildlife Sanctuary, among other offences, almost 4 years ago. 2 of his co-defendants, his driver and another hunter, also had their sentences upheld. The final decision has brought an end to the case most doubted justice would be served, as it involved an ultra-rich defendant. 5 former core members of the now-defunct People's Democratic Reform Committee, or PDRC, have lost their parliamentary status in a ruling by the Constitutional Court over their roles in the mass protests against the Yingluck Shinawatra administration in 2013 and 2014. The 5 are Chumpon Dulasai, an MP for Chumpon Province, Isarat Somchai, Democrat Party list MP, Tawan Senniam, Democrat MP for Songkhla, Putipong Punakan, and Natapon Tip Suwan, both party list MPs of the Palang Pracharat Party.
And tonight we're going to introduce you to this special documentary series which is called Reviving Thailand, How to Survive Post-COVID. And for the first episode, we're going to explore the lives of people working in the street food industry as to how they have adapted the new normal lifestyle. Let's find out more.
พี่น้องประชาชนครับช่วงเวลาหลายสัปดาห์และหลายเดือนข้างหน้าต่อจากนี้ไปเราอาจจะต้องเผชิญกับช่วงเวลาที่เลวร้ายและเป็นช่วงเวลาที่ยากลำบากของประเทศไทยอันเป็นที่รักยิ่งของพวกเราช่วงเวลานี้จะเป็นบททดสอบที่เราทุกคนไม่เคยเผชิญมาก่อน
In March of 2020, the Thai government declared a state of emergency. Soon afterwards, borders were closed to foreign arrivals due to the stringent measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus. The number of foreign tourists dropped dramatically from nearly 40 million to 6,700. The tourism industry generated 3 trillion baht for the country, which equals 20% of the country's GDP. 2/3 of that tourism revenue came from foreign visitors, but that was before the emergence of the coronavirus. So far, more than 4 million people have been forced out of work, and millions more who work indirectly in the tourism industry have also been affected.
โควิดก็คือเปลี่ยนจากหน้ามือเป็นหลังมือเลยค่ะจากที่เคยมีลูกค้าเยอะก็ลูกค้าก็หายไปเพราะเขาไม่ให้นั่งที่ร้านแล้วก็จากที่มีลูกน้องหลายคนตอนนี้ก็เหลือแต่คนในครอบครัวก็คือว่าก็บอกให้ลูกน้องพนักงานเข้าใจว่าไม่ไหวแล้วนะต้องให้ออกอะไรประมาณนี้ค่ะเพราะว่ารายได้น้อยลง
เชื่อไหมเนี่ยที่ธนาคารนั่นตรงนั้นมาสุดตรงนี้เต็มหมดเลยคนมานั่งรอนะเพราะว่าฝั่งคันนี้ไม่มีที่ให้เขายืนแล้วเต็มหมดเลยเดี๋ยวนี้เต็มหมดเก้าอี้ก็เต็มฝั่งคันนู้นก็เต็มเพราะโควิดมาหายไปหมด
ก่อนโควิดนี่ก็คนเยอะครับผมขายกันเทน้ำเทท่าเรียกว่าเททิ้งเลยดีกว่าขายอย่างนั้นเลยพี่คนเยอะมากครับทุกที่ทุกเจ้าในเยาวราชขายดีกันหมดเกิดโควิดก็เททิ้งเหมือนกันพี่แต่ของเน่าเสียนะที่ต้องเททิ้งเพราะมันไม่มีคนพี่ขายก็ไม่ได้ออกมาขายกลางโต๊ะไม่ได้ขายได้ใส่ห่อวันละ100-200ผมก็ต้องจำใจออกมาเพื่อให้ลูกน้องได้กิน
Every Saturday here there's always a market, and Saturday night we have a night market here, And that was before. That was vibrant. There were molam dancing down there. There was singing down there. There was a huge footfall along the promenade there. And it brought a vibrancy. It made people feel good.
The vibrancy Thailand possesses is partly because of how lively the streets can be. So when there are no tourists and low demand, that vibrancy just disappears. There are around 100,000 street food stalls in Thailand with an estimated market value of 3.4 million baht. Though food is essential, being a street food vendor cannot generate as much income as it used to. Many have given up. Many have fought on. Sombat Chai Song, a pancake vendor in Nong Khai, is one of the people that keeps his head down and fights on. He said most of his friends who are also vendors just gave up. His income was down 70%, but he just keeps going out every day. His day begins at 5 a.m., and he is out selling his pancakes until 9 or 10 p.m., 6 days a week.
โอ้การเงินแย่มากครับผมครับโอ้ไม่เคยเป็นหนี้ก็ได้เป็นหนี้นะครับผมโอ้โหแย่สุดๆเลยไม่เคยพบไม่เคยเห็นครับจนช่วงเขาปิดประมาณ2 หรือ 3 เดือนเนี่ยแทบตายครับผมเหมือนตอนนั้นน่ะแล้วทำยังไงโอ้ก็ไม่รู้ครับชักหน้าไม่ถึงหลังทุกคนเลยครับไม่ใช่แต่ผมคนเดียวหรอกพวกขายตลาดนัดนะไม่ใช่เขาปิดตลาดนะครับไม่มีที่ไปเลยครับพวกขายที่หน้าบ้านขายเท่าไหร่ก็เท่านั้นแหละ
ช่วง2-3 เดือนแรกที่ว่านี่คือช่วงปีที่แล้วเหรอคะ
ครับตอนเขาปิดตลาดนัดนะครับเขาไม่ให้ขายอะไรนะครับช่วงนั้นแหละครับโอ้ลำบากที่สุดเลยไม่เคยเจอเหตุการณ์ที่มันหนักหน่วงขนาดนี้นะครับ
Street food vendors in other tourist destinations like Chiang Mai, Pattaya, and Phuket also felt a huge impact during the lockdown. They needed to adapt to survive. Many of them have turned to rely on technology and delivery drivers, whereas some, such as Sasiwan, came up with new ideas to survive. She only depends on a food delivery platform and gets her own staff to deliver the food. She also started selling cakes, something she learned a while ago, but it never caught on at her food joint. Somehow, it is now getting more popular for delivery.
Delivery ของเราจะเป็นแบบเป็นพวกไรเดอร์อะไรอย่างเงี้ยมารับใช่ไหมคะแต่ทีนี้เราจะให้พนักงานที่ยังอยู่กับเราเป็นคนส่งกับข้าวเองใช่พนักงานเขามีงานทำเขาได้เงินแล้วก็เราก็ได้ลูกค้าที่แบบข้างๆบ้านอะไรอย่างเงี้ยด้วยในพัทยาด้วยเหมือนแบบมันว่างมากค่ะคือช่วงโควิดคืออาหารก็ไม่ออกเราก็ไม่มีอะไรทำก็เลยแบบลองลงขายเค้กดูเคยเอารูปเค้กที่เคยไปเรียนแล้วลงขายดูทีนี้ลูกค้าก็ทักเข้ามาเรื่อยๆแล้วเราก็ไม่ได้ขายแพงอะค่ะเริ่มต้นแค่ปอนด์ละ200 บาทอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วก็ขายดีมาเรื่อยๆเลยค่ะก็มีออเดอร์ทุกวัน
The deadly coronavirus outbreak has caused serious displacement of a majority of small street food vendors. Yet, in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity. During the middle of the third wave of the coronavirus pandemic, the total number of COVID cases in Chiang Mai was more than 7,000, with 37 fatalities. Som Chok decided to open his street food stall in the once touristy area, Chang Klan Road, not far from the deserted Chiang Mai night bazaar. His signature menu is goat curry served with roti. This is similar to the famous franchise, Roti Pade. Som Chok is her grandson and also the owner of the Hamsa goat farm. His 15-year-old business was significantly impacted by the COVID lockdown as there was zero demand.
ช่วงนี้มันต่ำลงมากนักท่องเที่ยวไม่มีแล้วก็ลูกค้าหลักของแพ้ก็คือคนจีนคนต่างประเทศซึ่งไม่มีเข้ามาช่วงนี้เราก็เลยหันหาลูกน้องกันว่าทำยังไงกันดีเรามีฝีมือในการทำแกงอยู่แล้วแล้วก็โรตีเราก็มีประเดย์โรตีที่แบบสุดยอดอยู่แล้วทำยังไงให้มาจอยกันได้ก็เลยตัดสินใจลุยกับอาชีพโรตีกับแกงซึ่งหาทานยากมากในเชียงใหม่
แล้วก็ประเดชก็บอกลุยถึงตัดสินใจทำกับลูกน้องทั้งหมดที่ว่างงานกัน
Early this year, the vaccine rollout had been very slow compared to other countries in Southeast Asia. That sparked a public outcry, and the Thai government came under fire. The situation has improved since the government procured millions of doses of vaccines from other countries, plus locally made AstraZeneca vaccines from Siam Bioscience. So far, 87 million doses have been administered, and more than half of Thailand's population of 66 million are fully vaccinated. Anutin Chanvirakul, Public Health Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, said that Thailand will receive at least 90 million COVID-19 vaccine doses in 2022. After 18 months of COVID restrictions, Thailand finally reopened the country to vaccinated foreign tourists in November, despite 6,000 to 8,000 new cases every day. However, the government has been in eager anticipation of reviving its tourism industry. Small street food vendors also have high hopes for the reopening.
ใจไหมแบบจะเปิดประเทศแบบดีใจสิดีใจมากแต่ก็มาพร้อมกับความระแวงเนี่ยตอนนี้ก็คือต้องมีเจลแอลกอฮอล์แล้วก็ต้องเซฟตัวเองเราไม่รู้ว่าวันข้างหน้ามันจะเกิดอะไรขึ้นแต่มันก็ดีกว่าไม่เปิดมันดีกว่าไม่เปิดนะอย่างน้อยทำให้เราได้สู้กับมันถ้าเราไม่เปิดเลยเราก็แพ้มันอยู่อย่างเงี้ยเราก็ต้องหันมาสู้มันนะเพื่อความอยู่รอดเนาะ
ยังมีความหวังคิดว่ามันก็ต้องมีความหวังเลยพี่แหมมันถ้าเรามาอยู่จุดนี้ไม่มีความหวังไม่ได้หรอกถ้าเปิดมันก็ต้องมีความหวังเลยว่ามันจะดีแต่ว่ามันจะช้าหรือเร็วอันนั้นก็ค่อยๆดูต่อไป
Nothing in this world lasts forever. It comes and goes. However, this rule cannot apply to the coronavirus because, according to the World Health Organization, it will not disappear. For all of us, it seems like we have no other choice but to learn to live peacefully with COVID-19.
ส่วนตัวเนี่ยสถานการณ์โรคระบาดมันให้บทเรียนอะไรกับเราบ้างไหมคะ
โอ้คืออย่างแรกเลยนะคะคือการที่ปรับตัวที่จะอยู่กับโรคระบาดนะคะแล้วก็เรียนรู้ที่จะอยู่กับสิ่งนั้นช่วงแรกอะค่ะเราก็จะแบบรอการหายไปของโรคระบาดแต่พออยู่กับโรคระบาดสักพักแล้วเราก็ต้องปรับตัวเพื่อที่จะเรียนรู้เพื่อที่จะอยู่แบบอย่างยั่งยืนแล้วก็มีความสุขอะค่ะคือไม่ต้องคอยระแวง
In every adversity, there's opportunity for people, no matter how bad it is. I'm looking forward. I'm an optimist rather than a pessimist. So I feel that please God, please Buddha, that in maybe a year and a half or 2 years' time, you come back here again to be singing and dancing here, up and down the bar and out the back and out the front.
And we still have 4 more episodes to our special documentary series, so be sure to check out on our program this week with Thai PBS World. And we'll be leaving you tonight with beautiful images of Krabi province. And that wraps up tonight's edition of the program. Join us every Friday at 10:15 p.m. only on Thai PBS. And don't forget to follow us on social media as well as our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates as well as analyses. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. สวัสดีค่ะ